A Dane County judge threw out 2 of the 8 convictions for Chandler Halderson, but it won't change the fact the murderer will spend the rest of his life behind bars.
The 25-year-old was found guilty of killing his parents, Bart and Krista, earlier last year. NBC 15's Elizabeth Wattis joining us now to break down what happened today in court.
Yeah, John and Maria, in the grand scheme of things, the charging mistake will only really change 2 things. 1, the fact that Halderson's lawyer will have to file a new appeal, and 2, Halderson will get a little bit of money back in court fees. A judge determined today it went against state statute to charge Halderson with mutilating a corpse and hiding a corpse. UW law expert John Gross explains it like this. In Wisconsin, someone cannot be convicted of both because hiding a corpse is considered what's called a lesser included offense of mutilating a corpse. So basically, if someone is convicted of mutilating a corpse, the more serious crime of the 2, it would be implied they would be guilty of the other charge as well. Even so, Halderson's lawyer is counting today as a small victory.
We're happy about that. Obviously, the main counts are still in place, and Chandler wants to appeal that, and we'll be working on that appeal in the future. But we're very happy today that counts 4 and counts 8 were dismissed.
Now, that appeal is not yet entered into court records. I just checked, but we expect that to happen soon. In the studio tonight, Elizabeth Wattis, NBC 15 News.